Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever just stared at your screen, read a painfully generic, completely robotic response from an AI, and thought to yourself, well, that was absolutely useless? Look, we have all been there. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are zeroing in on a skill that literally separates the beginners from the absolute masters when it comes to artificial intelligence. We're looking at a framework for getting better answers out of AI through reasoning, format, and iteration. Our core objective for this explainer is super simple. We are going to learn exactly how to improve AI outputs way beyond that frustrating first try. So if you've ever felt totally let down by an AI assistant, you are in exactly the right place. Right off the bat, I want to shatter a very common illusion. There's this massive myth out there of the perfect first prompt. You know, this idea that if you just string together the right magic words, the AI is going to instantly do your entire job for you. But the reality? That doesn't exist. Professionals rarely stop after the first prompt. When beginners get a bad answer, they usually just blame the AI. But professionals? They know that poor instructions are the real culprit here. It's never about writing one magical sentence. It is entirely about how you refine your requests. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover why AI is not Google, the power of iteration, better context and reasoning, breaking down big problems, choosing the right format, and finally, some common mistakes you definitely want to avoid. Consider this your toolkit for mastering AI outputs. Starting off with Section 1, AI is not Google. We really need to change our mindset here. If you expect a perfect, fully formed answer on your very first try, you're essentially treating artificial intelligence exactly like a traditional search engine, and that is fundamentally the wrong approach. Think about it this way. Imagine walking into a busy office, shouting a single, vague keyword, like, I don't know, synergy, at a brand new intern, and then walking away fully expecting a polished presentation an hour later. I mean, they would completely panic, right? A search engine fetches existing information based on keywords, but an AI assistant? That's much more like working with a highly capable, very smart intern. And when you manage an intern, the quality of their work depends entirely on your management style. The better your instructions and the more specific your feedback, the vastly better that final output is going to be. So imagine walking up to that brilliant but completely inexperienced intern on their first day and just saying, create a logo. That's it. Zero details. They don't know your company colors, they don't know your target audience or your brand identity. They are going to fail. Not because they aren't capable, but because they are operating in a total vacuum. Just like a human needs specifics to succeed, your AI needs clear direction rather than these vague, context-free commands.
Which brings us to Section 2, the power of iteration.
Now, what's really interesting about this loop is that it's the core secret of prompt engineering. It's an iterative process, not a one-and-done task. To really master AI, you have to transition from being just a casual user into, honestly, more of a scientist. You're running a continuous loop. You start with a prompt. Then you observe what the AI gives back. Ask yourself, what did it miss? What nuance did it get totally wrong? Then you improve your instructions based on those specific gaps, and repeat. You run this experimental loop until the output is exactly what you need. You aren't just typing, you're steering the system. Let's look at a quick example. If you just asked an AI for a customer email, the system is forced to guess your intent. You're going to get something incredibly bland and generic because the AI is trying to appeal to every possible scenario in the universe. But simply adding a constraint, like asking for a professional customer email, begins to dramatically shape the output. You've suddenly narrowed the universe of possibilities. But of course, we can and absolutely should take this even further. To get the exact answer you want on the final try, you need to stack your complexity. Look at this layered approach. First, we define the core task, apologizing for a delayed shipment. Then, we add a strict constraint, keep it under 150 words. We define the specific tone as friendly, and finally, we give structural instructions to end with next steps. By iterating to this level of layered detail, the AI produces exactly what you need, completely saving you the headache of manually rewriting some generic, unhelpful response. All right, moving into Section 3, better context and reasoning. If iteration is the engine, then deep context and structured logic are absolutely the fuel that powers this whole thing. Telling an AI to create a marketing campaign is just going to result in generalized noise. The AI cannot read your mind. Instead, feed it rich context. Tell it who you are, your exact company size, your business model, the specific platform you want to use, and your precise target audience. Giving an AI this kind of specific background completely changes the quality of the response, from surface-level fluff into a targeted, highly usable business asset. Next up is a massive concept known in the industry as chain of thought reasoning. Basically, this means asking the AI to solve problems logically, step by step, before rushing to the final answer. Why does this matter so much? Well, here's a surprisingly fascinating fact. Forcing an AI to essentially think out loud drastically reduces hallucinations. If you ask an AI to jump straight to a complex conclusion, it often breaks its own logic paths and literally just makes things up. But if you force it to analyze carefully first, the reliability of the answer completely skyrockets. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean. Imagine you're an HR manager. Asking the AI to simply find the best employee might cause it to wildly fixate on just one single metric like highest total sales, totally ignoring terrible attendance or awful client reviews. Forcing reasoning completely changes the game. By instructing it to compare all employees based on sales, customer feedback, and attendance before making a recommendation, you are forcing the AI to weigh layered metrics. This yields a far superior, deeply reasoned recommendation. Section 4. Breaking down big problems. This is absolutely crucial for handling those massive, highly complex requests without overwhelming the AI. Dumping a massive, unstructured goal like build my startup or write my 300-page novel onto an AI is a guaranteed way to break the system. Again, it's an AI, not a magic wand. The system simply won't know where to start, its logic paths are going to tangle up, and it's going to produce generic, surface-level nonsense that you honestly can't use for anything. Let's move on and see how this builds into something so much better. Instead of one giant, heavy prompt, sequence your requests. Break it into manageable, logical pieces. Step 1. Research competitors. Hit enter. Wait for that specific answer. Then, step 2. Define customers based strictly on that research. Then step 3. Create pricing. Then marketing. Then a launch strategy. By keeping the AI relentlessly focused on one specific, highly detailed task at a time, you drastically improve the output quality of every single component. Let's look at Section 5, choosing the right format. You can save massive amounts of time by defining exactly how you want your data packaged. You don't just have to sit there and accept giant, unreadable blocks of text. Map the output directly to your workflow. Do you need a quick summary for an executive? Just ask for a bullet list. Need to compare software tools? Tell it to generate a table. Are you a developer passing data over to an application? Demand strict JSON format. HR professionals building out an onboarding process? Ask for a checklist. Packaging the information perfectly on the very first try saves you countless hours of copying, pasting, and manual reformatting. It's a real game changer. Finally, Section 6, common mistakes to avoid. These are the behavioral traps that trip up almost every single beginner in this space. Users expect perfection instantly, which, as we've learned, only leads to frustration. They offer zero context, leaving the AI totally in the dark. They lump completely unrelated questions together, which scrambles and confuses the model's logic. They just settle for mediocrity because they never bother to refine or iterate on their initial prompts. And of course, they create extra manual work for themselves by forgetting to specify an output format. But listen, the ultimate mistake? That's blindly trusting the AI without verification. It is an incredibly powerful tool, but it absolutely still requires a human at the wheel. So, the crucial point is this. Prompt engineering isn't about knowing obscure coding languages or having some secret technical background. Not at all. It is a continuous, deeply human cycle. Think clearly about what you actually want, give useful, rich context, experiment with your instructions, and improved based on the output. It's a fundamental skill of communication and iteration. Real quick, before we wrap things up today, I've got a teaser for you. In our next explainer, we are going to move beyond just talking to the AI, and we're going to start unpacking the actual data that powers every single AI system on the planet. You definitely won't want to miss seeing how that all works under the hood. But for right now, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Think back to a time you got a terrible robotic answer from an AI. Apply the scientific method and that iteration loop we just talked about. Which of your old prompts are you going to rewrite today? Add that context, ask for reasoning, define the exact format, and iterate. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and hey, happy prompting!